ProbStats kids, this is Dr. Callahan for week 10, Tuesday. You should have your brand new warm-up vlog already for week 10 to week 19. So go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions. Just to give you guys an idea as to what we're doing or where we are. So this is week 10. Next week is going to be week 11, and your finals week is going to be on week 18. So if you need any of your missing assignments, it is on this Google Doc right here. It's also on the bottom of your white guided notes. You can go ahead and make up any homework assignments or any activities that we've done in class to increase your grade. All right, let's go ahead and get started with today's stuff. In case that there is a snow day, we always have this as kind of like a backup. So I would suggest you just go to MS Team and then watch the video on YouTube. And of course, it's always going to be days versus, or excuse me, the week versus the day. So if tomorrow, for example, tomorrow will be week 10 Wednesday, in case we had a snow day, which is not going to happen because it's supposed to be 60 degrees tomorrow. So you will go to YouTube and go to week 10 Wednesday, and then you will follow along with your white guided note packet. Okay, so make sure you fill that part out in case of a snow day, because I know fall's here, but winter is within the horizon. All right, so yesterday was week 10, Monday, and you guys had a little bit of a homework assignment on your textbook. Now remember, the pictures of this will always be on the Google Doc. And the answers that we talked about were the different types of study. There was simulation, simulation. There was experimental, observational, and then survey. So you were supposed to answer questions 2, 4, 8, and 12, and go ahead and take a look at the answers right here. All right, so then with that said, here are a part of that as well. And go ahead and pause the video and correct your textbook. It's out of 7 points. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Yesterday, I also had you guys do objective number 7 in class. If you do not finish it, go ahead and take a look at the answers. Now, there are 6 steps when you guys talk about a statistical study. Those are the 6 different steps. Objective 8, it says, can you identify data collection techniques? And there are 4 of them that we talked about. We went into great detail: observation, experimental, simulation, and survey. So those are the 4. Then we also did an article, which I want you guys to answer the following 3 questions on the article. So make sure you guys have that turned in before you leave. All right, and so this is your breakdown for today. Today we're going to talk about 1.3 on how to collect data. Day 2, we're going to start our notes on page 9, and then I'm going to have you guys do a review on a rolling dice activity. Then we're going to talk about, do you know your intervals in statistics? And then, do you know your common reasoning in statistics? We're going to go ahead and go over objectives 9, 10, and 11. And tomorrow you can expect a quiz on 1.3. And then your homework tonight is 24 to 36 even. So make sure you go to week 10, Tuesday, to access the homework from the textbook on your Google Doc. All right, so first thing I want you guys to do, if you're in class, I will go ahead and give you guys a pair of dice, and you're going to be rolling them, and you're going to be writing down the numbers that you get. But given the fact you're at home, you are welcome to just make up some of them. Once you make up the numbers, I'm going to say 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 2 and 3. You can make up whatever you want. Add the sum together. And once you have that down, I want you guys to go ahead and answer some of the questions here. Now, if you don't have this, you're welcome to go ahead and do this on a separate piece of paper and then just turn it in. So what is the probability that you are going to have something that is less than or equal to 9? And that is going to coincide with your sum right here. So pause the video, go ahead and answer that. Okay, so next thing I want you guys to do is take a look at the part that's over here on the right side. Okay, it says, now let's go ahead and test it. Your job is to go ahead and place a word somewhere on the scale going from impossible to certain. So impossible is obviously right here at the very end. Certain is going to be right here on the, on the very bottom. Certain is going to be on the very top. And in between there are some answers that are somewhat like even chance, very unlikely, almost impossible, no chance, doubtful, 50-50, improbable, probable, very likely. Where will these words go along these tick marks? So go ahead and place them. And what this is doing is it's testing your ability to cite the intervals of where something goes when you're doing a survey. And then we're done with section A. I want you to focus in on section B. And what section B says is decide what the chance of each event is by putting a letter in the correct place. So for example, B, you will blink today. Is that impossible? Is that even chance, which is 50-50? Is that very likely, or is that absolutely certain? I think it's probably certain that you're going to blink today. Now, if you don't blink, that will be very interesting because I don't know if you can just, tape your eyelid open for the entire day. I think we blink so that way our eyeballs get more moisture in it, so it becomes moist and not dried up. So it protects your eyes. So I think that's pretty certain that you're going to blink today. So then go ahead and do A, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then figure out which one of these match that. Pause the video and answer those questions. Okay, so here's your first reflection. You can do this on a separate piece of paper. It says, today you learned a variety of vocabulary words. Pick two that you felt were really important to today's lesson, explain them, and then tell you why they felt important. So some of the vocabulary words that we went over were like likely, unlikely, certain, impossible. So pick one of those. Okay, so then what I'm going to have you guys do is similarly to what you just did, the next thing is, do you know your common reasoning in statistics? So you're going to make up your own events for each of the probability, and that's impossible, very unlikely, unlikely, even chance, likely, very unlikely, and certain. And you're going to write your response in these tiny little boxes right here. So just like what I have up here that I made up an example. So for example, if I said the probability of a pregnant lady on the bus having a girl or a boy, it's 50%. So where would that go? Well, that will probably be 50%, and that is going to be even chance. So that's what I will write down over here in this box. So I want you guys to come up with a scenario that will be unlikely. Come up with a scenario that is absolutely certain. If you're going to be blinking today, I don't know, maybe you'll go to the bathroom as well. I think everybody goes to the bathroom at least once. And then come up with something that is very likely, unlikely, very unlikely, and almost impossible. Okay, now that I've kind of practiced with you guys on doing this, what I want you to do now is think of a study, because eventually you're going to be creating your own statistical design. Now, if you were to create a study, what topic would it be? So for example, a good one is, are college or are students in high school adequately prepared for college when they graduate high school? That's a good question, but then the question is, how are you going to go out and take the data? How are you going to go ahead and test them? Are you going to ask them, are you prepared for college? And they just answer yes or no. Or are you going to ask them maybe for their GPA? Or maybe if you're going to ask them, are they currently enrolled in college? Because when you ask people, are you planning on going to college? A lot of people say yes, but we really don't know if they really are or not. And that could be an error because some of them might just say yes because that sounds good, but maybe they have absolutely no idea whether they're going to do it or not. Second question is, who is your targeted population? Well, if this is my question, I will probably say high school seniors. So what is your sample size? I will probably say the entire senior class at Hug, which is about 400 of you guys. And if you can't do 400 kids, obviously, then maybe you can pick one classroom of math students that are seniors, one classroom of English, students that are seniors, one classroom of social studies, one classroom of science, just so you have like a good variety of students. 4 is, what type of data is it? Can you distinguish the difference between qualitative data and quantitative data? So which one is your study going to be? Can you classify the data with respect to 4 levels of measurement? So is that going to be ordinal? Is that going to be nominal? Is it going to be interval or ratio? And how would you collect your data? So what are your techniques? I guess for me, I would have to contact the math teacher, English teacher, social studies teacher, and science teacher and ask them, which period can I show up to ask your students a question? And most likely, it will probably be in a form of a survey where I give them a little piece of paper, they write down their GPA, and then yes, they're ready for college, or no, they're not ready for college. All right, so with that said, let's go on to our notes today. So it's going to start on page 9. And we're going to ask yourself, can you distinguish the difference between sampling methods and can you identify a bias sample? So a sampling technique start off with a simple random sample, and that is SRS. So every possible sample of a sample size has the same chance of being selected. So like, for example, if you're drawing names in a hat or maybe a random number generator on a computer, a random number can be generated by a random number table using a software program or a calculator. Assign the number to each member of the population, and members of the population that correspond to these numbers become members of the sample. It's interesting, like this kind of reminds me of the DMV. When you get there, you get a number and it basically randomly calls you up to see, when it's your turn. So everybody gets a unique number. Next, we're going to talk about is stratify sample. The stratify sample basically divide population into groups or stratas and select a randomized sample from each group. So for example, to collect a stratified sample of the number of people who lives in Westridge County household, you could divide a household into socioeconomic status level, like how much money they make, and then randomly select a household for each of that level. So you don't want to go ahead and randomly select a bunch of people living in a bunch of really nice houses, but then you also don't want to select a bunch of people from your study living in a bunch of, like bad looking houses. So you want like one of each from each, like a really good house, an okay house, and maybe an apartment or something. So you want them to be widely diversified and spread. And some of the other things that you can go ahead and break people down on are based on grade level, like 9th grade to 12th grade, age, gender, ethnicities, and also income. Cluster sample is when you divide a population into clusters and select all of the members in one or more, but not all of the clusters. So for example, in the Westridge County, you can divide a household into clusters according to their zip codes, and then select all the households in one or more, but not all of the zip codes. Or you could do area codes, or you could even do it based on buildings. Systematic sample is choosing a writing or starting value at random, and then you're going to be selecting every kth member of the population. So the Westridge County example, you can assign a different number to each household and then randomly select a number starting. So you're going to select the 100th household for every 100. So 100, the second 100th household, third 100th household. So every house gets a number, and you're going to pick the 100th place, 200th place, 300th place, 400th place. So you have 4 households that's already going to be representing 400 people, but really you have 4 participants of the household. Okay, example. You are going to do a study to determine the opinions of students at your school regarding stem cell research. Identify the sampling technique used. So you're going to be dividing the student populations with respect to major and randomly select and question some of the students in each major. So what kind of sampling is that going to be? Pause the video, read questions 1 and 2, and then go ahead and answer them. That will be stratified because you're dividing a few selected people into groups. The second one is SRS. Bias. A sample have bias if the results cannot be trusted because the collection was done in a manner that does not reflect the entire population. Like if I went ahead and collected data from only people that lived in apartments, you have to have a wide variety. So that would be somewhat biased. Questions that have bias, if they are unfairly influence the answer given by a subject. Types of sampling bias, choosing the most available subject to be part of the sample. Self-selected means that the subject experimental unit is a volunteer to be part of the sample. Undercoverage means the sample size is way too small to represent the population or the sample leaves out one or more groups of the population. And questioning bias means that it's poorly worded questions that have a response bias or lead the subject towards a specific answer. So the next example says, what type of bias exists? These are the different type of biases. Go ahead and read the following examples and then write down the examples or write down the type of biases. Here are your answers. All right, you guys. So this is the end of our lesson. I'm gonna have you guys do the exit ticket. It says going shopping. If you were to fill a grocery cart with key concepts from today's lesson, what would it contain? And as always, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and stay safe and healthy. Take care.